Storygram Network.
Hey, Gerardo. How are you?
Pretty good. Hey, you know about the subscription? How does it work?
That's a good question. So, subscription to the Sonoma Community Center podcast means really no commitment on your side. What came up, I was thinking about this a long time ago, is people typically tend to think that a subscription means that you have to pay for something or we're capturing an email or information like that. But that's simply not the case.
So you mean I can just click it and just watch your videos and I don't have to pay any money?
And you don't have to pay any money.
Wow.
Subscribing merely means that when the next time we have an episode, it will pop up wherever you're listening to episodes, be it Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube. And what that means is it really just supports us and lets us know that we have listeners out there besides just downloading the podcast. So,
And it's just not subscribing, it's also liking it, right?
liking it, but really that subscribe button means that we know that there's listeners out there.
Perfect.
I don't know if you've had this, but I have people that come up to me and say, hey, I listened to it.
I do.
But translating that into the subscribe button means that you're supporting the Community Center podcast, the artists, and everybody that comes through here and shares their story that we are always excited to share about.
Well, you guys are listening. Subscribe, please.
Yep. Boop,
Make
boop.
our life easier, and we want to become popular, famous.
All right. Subscribe away. Hello, we are the Sonoma Community Center podcast, a place of creativity, connection, and community. We highlight the artists, teachers, and the community that come through the doors of our historic brick building, often called the heart of Sonoma. We share local tips and shout outs to our home, Sonoma Valley. And we are your host, Molly Spencer.
Gerardo Diaz.
We are the engagement team of the Sonoma Community Center.
Whoop, whoop.
Hello. Welcome this overcast morning in Sonoma at the end of June.
I know. Beautiful weather.
Beautiful weather. I don't mind it. I mean, people are like, oh, it's too cold. Blah, 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 blah. Yeah, well, it's about to change for like 6 months coming up
And
here.
we're never happy. Humans are never happy.
It's
like
true.
either too hot or too cold. That's it.
Something
You know.
like that.
I don't know. I don't care. I like cold weather though.
It's not too bad. Reminds me of the coast. And another thing to be happy about and complain about, last night we had our first summer series concert,
the
Cabani
Cabani
Jazz Project.
Yeah.
With Javier and the whole
was
band.
good.
It was amazing.
Yep.
I can barely walk today because
Yeah.
I decided to wear heels, and that was a bad idea. Can't help the dancing though. Can't help the dancing.
Yeah.
So
That was really nice. I was making pizzas in the back, and
Yeah.
I had a nightmare last night that I was in Italy and I had my own pizzeria, and people were like, "Yeah, give me a pizza." I'm like, "Oh, please stop."
yeah.
It was crazy, but it was fun though. It was fun.
It was a great time. So we will be having more coming up. But today we have very special guest with us. It is Robert Mahar. Hi, Robert.
Guys. Good morning. I'm happy to be here.
I'm so happy
nice.
to have you.
Thank you.
So I'm going to say a little bit about Robert, but I really feel like you can say it best. There's so many facets to you, but you're an artist and designer.
Correct.
And I'm going to say a master maker.
All right, I'll take
master.
it. Sure.
You teach imaginative and contemporary crafts from vintage projects and do-it-yourself projects all over the nation. Am I right?
Very nice. Yes.
Okay. Ambassador to Spoonflower. A lot of these wonderful places. I'm going to let Robert go down the rabbit hole in a little bit. Alumni of NBC's crafting competition show,
What?
Making It.
This is true.
We're going
This is
there
true.
too.
I wish I would
I
have
didn't
known.
even know about that until last night. I know. I mean, you're pretty much an Instagram star. I was like, how do we get this guy?
That's being
in
really
Sonoma?
kind. I have a very
You have a
active and
robust-
creative following there.
Yeah.
Yes. Thank you.
And
1
you-
million?
No, sir. That's really generous.
And you did a YouTube channel, Crafted Show.
I did for a long time.
Yes, exactly. And I feel like you're kind of an OG of that. We all kind of turned to that during COVID. And I wish I would have seen yours before then because they're really beautifully done.
Thank you.
You know, the length is right and the filming and everything. It's wonderful. And then I know, and I'm probably going to say this wrong, and I would love to talk more about this
Sure.
later, what the project is. Is it Miry List? You're a volunteer. Is it Miry List?
Oh, Miry's List.
Miry List. Okay.
Miry, Miry.
Miry.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, I'd love to talk about them. I
Wonderful.
love them.
Let's
Sure.
not forget, because that sounds like really something
They're
amazing
amazing.
that you're doing.
Absolutely.
So that's just a few facets of your incredible life. I don't even know where to go. But my first question is how did you find the Sonoma Community Center?
This is actually only my second summer in Sonoma. We did one of those funny pandemic moves.
Yes.
My partner relocated and got a job in the area. And so we had not spent a lot of time in the North Bay. And so we decided we're going to rent for a year while we kind of learn the lay of the land and figure out neighborhoods and where we want to be. And it just so happened that we found sort of a little guest house a couple doors down on Napa Street here.
Oh,
which
like
was
on the same block?
On the same block,
Love it.
literally. And so when I drove by and saw the signage and saw that there was a fiber arts department, I'm like, oh,
I'm here.
Man. So I immediately reached out to Eric, who was the director of the department at the time, made an appointment to come over and started teaching 2 months later. So yeah, it's been wonderful.
I wondered about that. All of a sudden, at that time during the pandemic, I was doing community center social media, and I looked you up because I wanted to tag you. How did this happen? It's amazing to have you in the community.
I'm so happy to be here. I mean, we're definitely in the honeymoon period. We
Of
keep
course.
joking we can't find the ugly part of Sonoma. It's so beautiful here. And I feel really lucky to have landed at the center because you all kind of feel like the heart of the town. So that's really nice.
That's what they say.
That's
I
what
hope
they
the donors
say.
will hear this. You hearing this, donors? We're the heart of Sonoma.
Yeah.
It's true. It's true.
It's not the first time it's been said, but we're pretty darn close. We're in this little aorta capital. It's good. Everybody always redoes the mission and tries to put words around it. And it's really just almost, in essence, the same as the Sonoma Grammar School that was here before.
Sure.
So, and just carries on arts and all that kind of stuff. In the fiber arts room, what a gold mine, right? I mean, it's one of the best rooms, the brightest, most beautiful room.
It's true. I mean, the programming you guys do is amazing, but the fact that you're also housed in this vintage schoolhouse, so freaking cool. It's
Vintage
beautiful.
is dear and to your heart too.
It is.
Oh man, I can't wait to
All
talk to
things
you about
vintage.
that, because that's my childhood as well. I wouldn't say
Sure.
childhood, but teenage years,
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
because when you don't have any money, what are you going to do? You're going to go thrift store shopping.
Use what you got. Yeah,
And
exactly.
now it's vintage,
Yeah.
but then it was like thrift clothes. But
There's nothing wrong with that. I mean, that clothes was new to you.
yeah, it's still, I would say like 75% of my wardrobe is recycled in one way or another. So, you know, getting it to wherever it's got to
I'll
be.
tell you a story. When I was growing up, my mom, she had 5 kids and she couldn't buy all these clothes for everyone. So one time she gave me these pants and I'm like, all right, that's good. It was new to me. I was in PE doing exercise and one of the girls that I really liked looked at my pants and was like, I think those are my dad's pants. We donated them to the Goodwill when it was here, Salvation Army. And I go, no, it's not. My
How
mom
did
bought them
she-
in Sears. And she's like, no, my dad puts their name on their clothes and then in the back of the
his
jeans, his name was in there on it.
As a
was
high
so
school
embarrassed.
student, mortifying.
I came
feel for
home
you.
and I told my mom, please, you told me you bought it from Sears. Don't do that to me.
At least take the name out of the back of it.
Erase it,
So
you
your
know.
name in there.
But, oh man.
Yeah.
That was terrible.
I had the opposite experience. I've had a couple of things like earrings I was wearing. They're like, I think that was my mom's. I'm like, that is the coolest. What about you? So where were you born and where did you kind of grow up?
Sure. Born in Pennsylvania, but grew up in Western Michigan.
Okay.
So Grand Rapids area.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oldest of
Pennsylvania.
4 kids.
Me too.
Same, yeah.
Yes.
There's a lot of baggage that comes with the oldest child position, my friend. Well, I shouldn't say baggage, responsibility.
Now, do you have brothers and sisters?
I have 2 brothers and 1 sister.
Okay. All right. I had 3 brothers, but I treated the youngest like he was a sister because he was supposed to be. But, now we look. It was all good. But he got the dresses and the fingernail painting.
Oh, that's fun.
He loved it.
Yeah. And so you grew up in Grand Rapids around that area. And what was it like? I mean, 4 kids, were you guys resourceful? What?
Yeah, I mean, listen, we didn't have a lot of money growing up, so we kind of made do with what we had. My parents worked real hard to kind of keep us in clothes and get us in school and all of that. But it was a great area to grow up with. Of course, as a teenager, you can't ever kind of get far enough away from where you grow up. I think that's kind of a natural impulse. True. But now as an adult looking back, I'm like, oh man, that was a really special place to grow up. And Grand Rapids in general they put a high value on the arts. And so growing up in school, we still had a really strong arts education program, which, you don't see everywhere these days. So I feel really fortunate.
Did you find yourself early on kind of drawn to the arts? Was
Always.
It an escape? I
think kids always have a natural inclination to something, whatever it might be. I was a child of the 70s, so I did all the 70s crafts. So we're talking macrame and potholder looms and sun catchers and, you name it, I did it. And of course, this was pre-internet, my friends. So I had the Childcraft encyclopedias, and there was one volume of that was the Make and Do volume. I swear to God, I did every project in that book. And that was actually my first introduction to embroidery. We were talking about this in my class last night. They had a whole section they called it drawing with thread. They didn't even use the word embroidery. So I started doing it, not knowing what it was. But
I love those things too. I do remember the first particular ones it wasn't embroidery, but was it needlepoint when you had the cross stitch when you had the picture? You should have seen the back of that. There was so many overlooping little. It was.
Is the embroidery the one that you put the rings around the cloth and then you draw and then you
exactly?
My grandma used to do that all the time.
Sure,
they used to do it for like tortillas. That was what they make. It's like where you put the hot tortillas at the end. Yeah, they used to have roosters. Flowers, you name it.
Kind of covers or cozies to keep them warm?
Keep them warm.
Perfect.
Yeah.
That's so smart. So many people learned those kind of crafts from their mom and their grandma, their parents.
So
they do pillowcases too out of Mexico.
Yeah.
You're sleeping with a rooster sometimes.
Mexico has an amazing embroidery tradition.
Yes.
So many of the dresses you see where it's embroidered across the yoke of the dress.
Oaxaca, the Mayans, they do a lot of those.
Great craft tradition.
Love that. We have a whole, I guess, the quilt in the 70s. There was a family reunion that the family made because all of my mom's uncles were all either like woodworkers as well as they knew embroidery. They knew all of it, right? And they embroidered a full-on, I think it was 1976 was the bicentennial.
Yes, ma'am.
And they made a family quilt, right? Each one got a patch, but it is like intricately, mostly by my grandfather that did this amazing embroidery work. And my uncle, we're busting it out for the grandma's turning 100 this year.
Oh, nice.
Take a
Love
look at it. But it's a really interesting, it's a little Americana for me at the time, but now I look at it, I can't believe I'm related to people that have these amazing talents like this.
It's funny because my uncle used to do most of the drawings for my grandma. Like my uncle used to
for
do
her to embroider.
Yeah,
cool.
Yeah, because he was really good at drawing and stuff. So he used to do all these crazy things, and my grandma just like did the color.
Amazing.
Which was pretty cool.
I often get asked, who'd I get my creativity from in my family? No one in the immediate family really showed an interest, but I did have a great aunt that made everyone in the family a crazy quilt. Which is quilts that are sort of assembled from scraps and patches. Yeah. And so they're very irregular but beautiful.
That's what those are called?
Crazy quilts.
We all have one too.
Yeah, exactly. And being a child of the 70s, mine was it was a patchwork archive of 70s fabrics. So we're talking polyester florals and corduroy and bandana material. It's something else.
Robert, we're having very parallel childhoods. I'm going to have to bring in my crazy quilt because it's the same.
I love it.
Okay, so you're growing up there. What happens after you said you left Grand Rapids, right?
I did. I ended up going to school at University of Southern California, which is how I ended up in Los Angeles.
Okay.
And I was there for 30 years.
I was going to say, you were in LA for quite some time.
For 30 years. Wow.
A real long time. It's the longest I've lived anywhere. I never in a million years as a Midwestern kid thought that I would end up in Southern California because I think, especially in the 80s, we all had very preconceived ideas of what Southern California was like and what LA was. But, I love it. I think once you find your people and the places you like to hang out, most any place can be home. But, for me, that was LA. It's
a big change from LA to Sonoma, huh? Traffic-wise?
100%. And I don't think even 10 years ago I could have done it. But right now, it feels perfect. I like the slower pace. People are lovely. It's easy to get around. I mean, of course, traffic in general is a dream. People talk about traffic here, and I'm like,
Nah, that's not.
what are you talking about? Try 8 lanes at 4:30 in the afternoon.
1 minute. Come on, man. Try waiting 2 hours over there.
It is true. We push it too. I used to commute down to Marin. Now I'm like, oh my God, I can't believe there's so much traffic. I'm picking up my daughter down Highway 12, and I'm also running late. So that's always what gives you. I'm like, this is
it's
nothing.
all relative, honestly.
Yeah. One time it took me like 2 hours from, I think, Ocean down in San Diego. Ocean View or what was
Ocean
it?
View,
Yeah,
sure.
Ocean View to like San Diego to my uncle's house. And I'm like, not doing this again. That was at 5 o'clock. I ended up, yeah, it was terrible. So I'm like, how do people do it here?
Yeah. But we love Sonoma. I mean, it's beautiful. It's friendly. I'm happy to be here. And after having been in Los Angeles for so long, I really had an established creative community there. And so it's kind of been a good change of pace for me and a good exercise in trying to sort of like build new community. And I love that.
Yeah. Well, it's a good place to do it.
Yes, ma'am.
For sure. So when you first arrived to LA, I mean, you didn't go into being a master of crafts quite yet. What was your first kind of...
I was at SC and I studied studio arts and art history. So that was kind of my educational background. I was really fortunate when I first got out of school to land an internship that turned into an apprenticeship with an appraiser of modern and contemporary artwork, which was interesting. It was very research heavy, a lot of time kind of looking up projects in books, but it also gave us access to look at really amazing collections in LA. And I worked my way through the apprenticeship, got my certification, and I ended up doing that for about 13 years.
Okay.
It was a great experience. And then in 2005, which is kind of the time when the worlds of e-commerce and handcraft were starting to find one another, Etsy launched that year.
All the makers markets were booming. It was a boom time. Yeah.
And so I decided I wanted to stretch some entrepreneurial muscle, and I started an online collaborative with about 50 other artists, and we created a product line for kids. And I loved that period. It was such a passion project.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's what really rooted me in the crafting community and in the maker world.
I got a little excited because, Gerardo and I do farmers markets, right?
Yeah.
And, I got my skills, sort of arty skills, but we're down there, but we're mostly the talkers. So we always do some sort of craft or outreach or something.
Nice.
But we're also like last minute, what are we going to do if we don't have a particular person from clay here or our famous button maker? Boy, I felt down the YouTube rabbit hole yesterday. Gerardo, this is where we're going to find all our crafts that we're going to do. Let's talk about your YouTube channel. I mean, the personal paper badges. This is what I was really curious about. I didn't know anything about this. Thaumatropes? Thaumatropes.
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about thaumatropes. Explain that to the public.
So many of
cool.
the projects that I love are kind of based in a historic craft tradition. Yeah. Thaumatropes, they were an optical illusion. You saw them a lot as almost like a parlor trick in the Victorian era. And it's a little disc. And on one side is, say, the image of a bird cage. And on the other side is the image, say, of a bird. It's connected to 2 strings. You twirl those strings, and the little disc starts flipping around, and all of a sudden your eye sees the bird in the bird cage.
No way.
Cool.
It's a cool little optical illusion. Yeah.
My brother used to do flippets.
To make that?
We can make it.
Long.
I was watching it last night, and it was the most exciting thing that happened to me all day besides dancing a salsa. We're doing it.
We're doing it.
Robert,
Yeah.
I know we got to do it. We got to
it sounds pretty cool.
Make sure we do it right.
Well, so this is the thing. In 2008, obviously, was Great Recession. Yeah. It hit a lot of small businesses hard. I hung on for a couple of years, but we ended up closing in 2010, which kind of gave me this opportunity.
Oh, you had a brick and mortar?
No, it was all online. It was virtual.
Online? Okay.
Yeah. But I needed to pivot, just because, people didn't have the disposable income they once did. And so I was really fortunate to get a position as producer for a digital entertainment company that had just received a contract from YouTube. So they were like, okay, we got to crack out as many of these videos as we can. So they hired me as the DIY producer. And that slowly morphed into me not only producing the segments, but presenting them on camera. So that's where that channel came from. And I loved that period. It made me such a better teacher because there's really something special about having to take a complex project and break it down into little understandable bite-sized pieces.
Absolutely.
That your viewers will understand. And so as a result, I've got this catalog now of like close to 150 short format craft tutorials on my website.
It's such a treat.
Thank you.
I mean, I knew it was out there, but I'm really going there now.
I love it.
I have to ask. So you're doing this. At what time did the crafting competition Making It show, which Gerardo and I are going to be binge watching all weekend, right?
Yeah, I'm going to watch it.
I'm totally going to watch it. I cannot wait.
He seemed familiar. Yeah. Maybe I saw that thing. I don't know.
You do have a familiar look.
Yes.
When I'm looking at you last night, and I'm like, he looks...
You have like a Hollywood looks. Like I've seen you somewhere in a movie or something. You know?
Hollywood
Gerardo, I'm going to hire you. Yeah.
Was that much later? Am I jumping forward?
No, it wasn't much
around?
later. And I think, I mean, listen, I was never a fan of reality TV.
Right.
And saying the sentence, I was a contestant on a reality TV competition is a sentence I never thought would come out of my mouth. But this opportunity came along, and really the only reality TV I had watched up until that point was the Great British Baking Show. I love that show, totally my jam. I would watch it over and over again. And I think what was so revelatory about that show is that the contestants were collegial. The judges, when they had critiques, they were constructive. And when you got sent off,
tearing you to shreds.
You got sent off with hugs. And I'm like, oh, I love that. So when I found out, they kind of put out just sort of a call for applications. And I read the description, and that's kind of how they positioned it as a crafty version of the Great British Bake Off. And then I found out that Amy Poehler and Nick Offerman were hosting it. And I'm like, oh, I'm such a huge Parks and Rec fan. And I'm like, if they're involved, it's not going to be crappy. Like, this is going to be something. So
she was pretty primed out at that time. I mean, was she still on Parks and Rec?
No, I think they had finished it. And I think that she had a development deal with NBC. So she was instrumental in getting this show off the ground. And I think that she was very invested in creating that sort of environment where it was a friendly competition, which is much more in my wheelhouse versus something cutthroat, you know?
Oh, for sure. When I think of Amy Poehler, I'm a huge fan of Amy Sedaris.
Of course.
And all of her books.
God bless her. She's the best.
Yes, exactly. I feel like it's not that far. Amy Poehler is like in the entertainment business, but I feel like if she wasn't, they would be kind of almost one and the same person a little bit. Amy Sedaris, a little bit more edgier, but Amy Poehler... feeling the vibe.
You feel like they could make some magic, I think, on a project.
I would like to see that segment together. So what was it like filming a crafting competition? Is there a lot of wait time around break?
The whole thing was a big wait time. Like the application process.
We're going back to that Takeshi Sound Editor movie. He explained to us all about waiting around.
Everything. I mean, the application process alone took 6 months.
Wow.
Okay.
So you're submitting photographs and applications and doing test projects and all of this kind of stuff. The actual filming itself for the season only took a month. I think they completed an episode every 3 days. So it was a pretty rapid fire pace. And while I'm used to like doing projects for clients, well, I have a time frame that I have to, that's my parameter. I got to get it done by next Friday or whatever. This was much different in that you're looking at a clock and you've got 3 hours to finish this up, or you've got 12 hours to finish it up.
So is it truth the essence of time is shortened so much? As shows always seem like, I don't think I can do that, only because I'd be so anxiety-ridden about time.
Well, I think you get in the zone. And the bell rings and you're like, oh my Lord, what just happened? And
when
hopefully there's something beautiful on your table. Yeah.
Do they really give you like 10 more minutes, or is that really like an hour?
They'll show Nick and Amy calling it out occasionally, but when they're not off camera, like the producers are letting us know, hey, you got a half hour left. Finish up what you need to finish up. So there were 8 of us, and it was a 6-episode series. Spoiler alert, I did not win. But I made it a good ways through the competition.
Figured, or would have said winner.
Exactly.
Of making.
Right? Oh, hell yes. I'd wear that like a badge of honor. Are you kidding me?
Your personal badge. He's wearing it right now. What runner-up are you?
I made it through episode 4.
Oh, that's pretty good.
That's halfway.
It's not bad.
I
It's
see
not
people
bad.
getting out episode 1. So
Sure. Well, somebody's got to go. But I have to tell you, it was such a fun experience, not only because of the sort of the tone that Nick and Amy set for the show, but because they weren't the judges, they got to advocate for us as makers. So whenever the judges came out, they'd always chime in like, hey, but did you see this? And look how this is constructed. And Nick Offerman is actually a really accomplished woodworker. He's got a wood shop in Los Angeles. So he's definitely a maker. Amy kind of played the role of sort of the every person, like, I don't really know what this is. Tell me what you're doing, that kind of idea. But it was a fun process. But after filming, we then had to wait a full entire year for it to air. And so we had to keep that secret.
And you can't even really talk about it, right?
You sign non-disclosure agreements. You can't tell a soul.
Wait, that's more hardcore than like Survivor.
I know.
Man.
Did they pay?
No, sir. I mean, I should take that back. You got a little per diem for every episode, but the real money is if you win. It was $100,000 prize, which would have been wonderful.
It was funny because in 2016, Telemundo had a show called Top Chef, Latinos.
Sure.
And I was invited to do it.
Oh my God.
No way.
Yeah. You had to do like a video of you cooking, and then they choose whoever they want. So I was chosen. I had to go to LA to like film. And the whole time I asked, am I getting paid for this? It's like, no, unfortunately, no. I'm like, I can't do it. I have family. I'm like, how in the hell I'm going to go over there and do this? I had to pay for hotels. I had to do all the stuff. I'm like, I'm good.
I think that's a lot of consideration for anybody that's approached to be on one of these shows, because the way they've got it structured, for better or worse, that's how it is. And I think the hope is either that A, you do win the big prize, which would be amazing, or B, as a result of having had this experience, doors will open and you've got other opportunities for work. And that's really the approach I went into it with.
I feel like those type of shows are almost rigged, like the one that I was going to be on. The person who won the show was a person who was really popular in YouTube already. And it was, it was like nobody had a chance since they started that show. Because she was already popular in YouTube. She had like a bunch of followers. And at the end, she was the one who won. So it's kind of like,
Well, maybe on that, but what about craft?
Yeah, what about
making the cut? That seems pretty.
The two judges on our show, one was Simon Doonan, who's the husband of Jonathan Adler, who's a famous designer.
Yeah.
He worked for Barney's for many years in New York. He was well known for these elaborate windows that he would do. So he was a very crafty guy.
Simon, right?
Simon Doonan. And
then
he
like
Dana.
he work for Vogue or Vanity Fair? Does he do a section in those? I just know the name. Yeah, exactly.
He's a fashion guy. He's everywhere. He's written several books.
Exactly.
Yeah. And then Dana Isom Johnson, she was sort of the style guru for Etsy.
Okay.
So the two of them were they had roots in sort of the maker world. And so for every craft, you'd get critiqued. The first part of every episode was a fast craft. And then the second half was the master craft, which was the really big, grand project. And that's what really made or broke you for each episode. That's what could send you home if you did poorly.
What was the price?
$100,000.
Oh.
I know. Come on. That's not chump change.
No.
Not at all.
No. Were you mad when you lost?
I wasn't mad. Honestly, at that point in the game, I think after the second episode, all the contestants joked with one another that it wasn't really going to be the person that was the most talented that won. It would be the person that could get up in the morning and get into the transport van in time to go to set, because the schedule was exhausting. We were all, in the evenings, nobody even wanted to eat together. We're just like, we're just going to take it back to our rooms and like lay on our beds and, fall asleep to bad TV because we were pooped.
Wow.
So I think, at that point, because you are so tired, there's a little bit of a sense of relief. Like, okay, I don't have to get up at 5 a.m. tomorrow and so on and so forth for free. Of course, there's a sense of disappointment because who wouldn't want to make it all the way to the end? But honestly, they did such a nice job curating the cast of makers that were on it that I feel like I've made like 8 amazing friends that to this day we're all in communication, which is really lovely and
so
valuable.
That part's true, huh?
Yeah.
Nice.
Friends.
I love it. Wow. So once it was all done and it aired and everything, did it kind of bump up things, or where
it was
did you go from
great
there?
unknown because it was the first season of the show. Nobody knew how it was going to do. It could be great. It could be nothing. It went on to do 2 additional seasons. I think that for me, what happened is that when I reached out to someone that I wanted to collaborate with, or I reached out to a venue that I wanted to teach at, they saw that, and I think they were a little bit more open to taking my phone call, which was great,
It sounds like the Sonoma Community Center. No, totally
exactly.
not. We didn't even know about it. I didn't know about it.
You know what, Robert? You're number one in our heart. You won the competition.
Thanks, dude.
Yeah.
You know?
I appreciate that.
I do feel like we struck a gold with you moving to Sonoma.
That's really kind. Thank you.
I mean, we'll loop back to your classes because they all are very amazing. Continuing on,
Sure.
Is that's kind of when you went into the YouTube thing, or did you start teaching everywhere?
The YouTube channel was before making it, and I actually think it helped me get on the show.
That's right.
Because it made it very easy for them to see, okay, what's this guy look like on camera? Does he know crafts? Does he not know crafts? So that was fairly apparent. Yeah.
Clean fingernails, please.
But I mentioned how much I loved the producing the DIY videos, and it really was like teaching to camera. And I think it was a very natural transition then to teaching in person. Honestly, I've been teaching for about 15 years and more intensely over the course of the last 8. And now that we're able to kind of, not necessarily post-pandemic, but able to gather together a little bit more safely now. Everybody's craving that sort of in-person interaction.
Absolutely.
So it's been great for me because I'm booking up a full calendar year and traveling to teach, which I love and appreciate and am passionate about.
What are some of your favorite places out there? I see a lot of West Coast places right now.
Sure.
And I don't know if you're like a rock band, like we're doing the West Coast tour. And then next year we'll do the East Coast tour. Europe in 2024.
Oh my God, from your lips to God's ears. How amazing would that be?
That would be awesome.
I think a lot of it is you just have to take into consideration the logistics of traveling. And am I going to make enough on this to cover expenses to get from point A to point B? So as a result, obviously Northern and Southern California. I teach regularly in Seattle and a little town north of there called Port Townsend, which is beautiful Victorian seaside town.
They love you up there.
I spend a lot of time up there. They've got a great creative community.
Robert's moving to Seattle.
No, sir. I've moved twice in the last 2 years. I can't pack those boxes again. I'm here for a bit.
I don't know if it's maybe the weather a little bit. Do you find like rainier, colder?
In the Pacific Northwest?
Yeah. When we did some online classes, we even had some teachers that came out.
I have some friends up there that taught with you.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Robert, have you ever traveled to Mexico?
I have not.
I was going to say that, but you were living in LA for 30-something years. That's like Mexico there too. So.
Right. It is. It is. I love my Latino community in LA. So aside from the Pacific Northwest, this past year I started teaching some classes in Arizona. So I was in Tucson. Last year I was in Lincoln, Nebraska. I mean, we're kind of going all over the place. I mean, these are not meccas, but they're great places with really active, creative communities.
If you go to Nebraska, how many days are you there?
Nebraska was for a conference, so that was the better part of a week. Most of the time when I'm traveling to a venue, it's like for a long weekend. Like in September, I'll be teaching in Denver, and so those classes are usually like Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Nice. Pad that out for travel time. But it's exciting for me to kind of get to visit these other sort of creative hubs around the country and tap into those communities. It's wonderful and inspiring.
Do you pack the house in these other locations? It's so funny. We go up and down here of like, this class sells out. There's almost no rhyme and reason to it. We're kind of back to like people being last minute.
Yeah. Well, I think the thing about traveling to teach is you, as a visiting instructor, are a little bit of a novelty.
Yes.
And so people know that if I don't take it this weekend, I don't know when he's going to be back again. So that can work in my favor. Do we always sell out classes? No. Do we sell them out often? Yes. And I'm really grateful for that.
Here you had a good outcome because I had a lot of people calling in like,
good.
And we're like, sorry, he already has like a kid that is for each person.
Folks, you got to sign up early for those classes.
These
you can't call the day before.
And painting classes and so much. We can't say enough. Jill Valavanis
is
amazing department head for, printmaking, but all of that, fine arts as well as fiber arts. And these classes, I've been here for 8 years, and it's always like that. you're literally making some supplies to help the class go a little bit more on time and be prepared and everything.
Sure.
So,
well, listen, that's
prep
the thing about
it, right?
signing up for one of my classes. I want to have this beautiful materials kit so it feels like you're showing up to a dinner party and you've got your place setting already made up for you.
It's like a goodie bag, a Robert Mahar goodie bag.
It's a great goodie bag. So, but that stuff takes time.
It does.
So, my friends, if you want to come take a class at the center, look at that calendar. We're doing it by the quarter system now.
We are. And we were kind of like that before, but now we're giving everybody the idea of quarter system, meaning like, okay, what do I want to take in fall through December? The majority of classes, unless it's a pop-up, will be available in August. So you can kind of prep out December. Okay, what are my spring and early winter classes? So
exactly. So you can look ahead.
We'll see you in the winter.
We haven't pitched classes for winter yet, but I will say that we're in June now. I'm not sure when the podcast is going to air, but in July, I've got a class that is, it's called Faux Batik Technique. Batik being this sort of wonderful Indonesian dyeing technique. And we're going to take a little modern DIY twist on it and use some unusual materials. So that's going to be fun. That's the 15th of July. And then in August, we're going to be doing a papermaking class, but it's a recycled papermaking class.
This sounds amazing.
It's saving some of those scraps from the recycle bin, making our own pulp and pouring your own sheets of paper. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. Come on now,
Have you
Molly.
heard of a little thing called Trash and Fashion Sonoma
Yes, ma'am.
around here?
Yes, ma'am. So I'm assuming some of those folks might be interested in making some material for next year's outfit.
Definitely. Did you see Brittany Kundes created what she did at the top of the stairs? It was the Trash and Fashion first place winner.
Yeah. Beautiful.
That was breaking a couple of Cuisinarts and that kind of stuff, creating branches out of paper stuff. So, yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Honestly, it's so much fun when you put those fashion trash and outfits up and down the hallways of the center. It's a little exhibition going on. It's nice.
I feel like we have some guest judging coming up soon, unless you want to participate. Anyway, we got a year to think about that. I know that you have certain crafts that you do certain times a year and you kind of have that dialed in.
Sure.
Are you just always playing, going, I'm going to take this next level, or just experiment and share your passion?
Sure. I think it's part of being an instructor that teaches on a regular basis. You're always wanting to offer something a little bit new.
Yeah.
There's always some class favorites that people want to take again and again. But a lot of what I'm doing is looking at historical sort of craft traditions.
Yeah, that's really
and then
interesting.
Trying to make my own version of it. I'm not trying to appropriate. I'm trying to honor the original craft or project, but then looking at what's available to me today as a modern material that might allow me to make something similar in the spirit of whatever that original project was. So that's always my personal challenge to myself.
Yeah.
And I always love a craft that's got a little history to it, that's got a story, that's got a background, because I think that makes it interesting for the students as well.
It does. Everything like that. I teach dance. He teaches culinary. Everything's got a story to it and what you're sharing. And especially like we have Japanese fiber camp going on right down here.
Cool.
And they're making sushi and mochis. And it's huge to pass on that knowledge and the story. That's probably what carries on the art and the crafting world in general.
I think
anything, you know. So.
Listen, in this point in time, there's no reinventing the wheel. Most of what's done is going to be done, but then having that sort of rich tapestry to draw from and kind of put your own spin on, I think that's exciting. That's really fun.
I love that. So we're going on. Right now, you're doing a lot of teaching. You're teaching here. Everybody come check out the website, SonomaCommunityCenter.org. Check out the upcoming classes. I want to touch a little bit first on, can you explain Spoonflower? You're an ambassador for Spoonflower, and I'm somewhat familiar, but share with everyone what Spoonflower is.
Part of my creative world is partnering with different brands that do sort of craft-related materials. And for several years, I've worked with this company called Spoonflower. They're print-on-demand fabric company. And honestly, finding them kind of changed the trajectory of my creative work as far as embroidery is concerned, because all of a sudden I could create my own images, have it printed on fabric, and then embellish it with embroidery. So they're a great company. We align on a lot of sort of like operational and ethical levels, which I appreciate. And so I think they're exciting to be involved with.
Where's Spoonflower based out of?
They're in the Raleigh-Durham area, so they're in North Carolina.
Great crafting people down there. Ceramics as well. We have a lot of ceramics teachers out of that area. Wow. Spoonflower. That's
Love 'em.
exciting. I know. I can't wait to retire, take Robert classes and create my own stuff. So that's a continued relationship there as well. But what is maybe a little bit new? Mary's List.
Yeah.
Miry list.
It's
How
all
can I
good.
say that?
This is
I'm Mexican.
Tripping over
so-
my words. I should be able to.
Miry, M-I-R-Y, is actually the
Miry.
founder's name.
Okay.
Miry.
Yeah, so it's her first name. It's a charitable nonprofit organization that I got involved with about 4 years ago. And I became aware of it because she lived in my neighborhood.
Down in LA?
Down in LA. We were in the northeast corner in Eagle Rock. And she saw the need for support for recent arrival immigrant families. You know, with a lot of things going on in Iran and Afghanistan, we saw an influx of a lot of families coming from those parts of the world, amongst other places, Ukraine now most recently. And while she wasn't involved in the sort of logistics of getting them to the United States, once they were here, they often, they're leaving scenarios where there's violence and often had to flee with maybe the clothes they had on their back.
Right.
So arriving in a foreign country where you don't know the language, you don't have the established family, that, that support network that you had grown up with. And so Miry created this organization that kind of is able to step in. So when these families arrive, they send somebody out to kind of assess their immediate physical needs. They put together what they call a wish list, which in full transparency is a target wish list.
Yeah.
And then they make that available to the public. And the genius thing about it is anybody from anywhere can look at that list, go shopping for this family, and those items are delivered directly to their door. And so we're not talking anything extravagant. We're talking beds and, cutlery and basic cooking utensils and all of that sort of thing. So for me, it's been an honor to work with them. And I've stepped in as a volunteer. They call me a wish list ambassador.
Okay.
So they'll assign me a family. And my job is basically just to kind of share part of their story, get their wish list out there, and try and get all those items fulfilled and sent off to this new arrival family, our new neighbors.
I love that.
Yeah.
I
They're
love
super
that.
special.
Rotary did that one during the fires and that kind of stuff for people that lost their houses.
Yeah,
But
sure.
Didn't like Francisco talk about something with Ukraine
that would be
stuff?
interesting. Yeah. Francisco, maybe sister cities might do something like that for Ukraine. Francisco Kilgore is our friend and has a podcast called Hello Sonoma. And
Nice.
yeah, he is on every
Shout
single
out, my
board.
friend.
But
Putting it on my podcast list.
yeah, he's a wonderful human being.
Well, the nice thing about Miry's List is they are nationwide.
Good.
I know they've
Okay.
got a lot of families in the Sacramento area, so they are in
So you can kind of
NorCal as well.
look at places that are around here. that
Exactly.
can-
But every week
support.
they'll send out a new list of families and the wish lists that are associated with them. So it's an ongoing opportunity
What's
to
the best
participate.
way to go to their website?
Yeah, so
What is
Miry is Miry, so miryslist.org.
It makes sense now.
Yeah,
I'm
okay.
thinking like stylist at the beginning and now Miry List. Okay,
Yeah,
good.
yeah.
.org.
Yeah, miryslist.org.
Perfect.
Yeah.
I'm to check it out. That sounds
Yeah, thanks for
amazing.
bringing that up. I am very passionate about them.
Oh, good. We love to. That's what we do.
This is the way.
Okay. All right. We've talked a little bit about crafting, but one big part of the show that we like to bring it back to is food.
Oh,
I'm not
God
going to
bless
lie. I was reading your wonderful, I'm online. It's all dreams of being a donut connoisseur. Tell us about it. Is
yeah,
this
my
your
little
sweet tooth?
tagline says, I think it's like vintage inspired design. Anyways, it ends up with cake possessed at the end of that little tagline. I got a insatiable sweet tooth, which is ridiculous. And now, coming from LA, there is a donut shop on every corner, and I probably could have drawn you a map of all of my favorites across the city.
Hilarious.
So up here now, of course, like I'm looking for all that. Of course, we've got amazing Harvey's Donuts.
Got Harvey's Donuts.
You know, and there's Dirty Girl Donuts over on Broadway.
Is that still there?
Yes.
Is it? I think
Okay.
so.
Yeah. I don't know. I haven't been there.
Probably
But-
going out of business. I don't know. I could be wrong, but I always see it closed when I pass through there.
It's so funny. I remember we worked in the flower shop in front of Sonoma Market when it got remodeled. So I want to say that's like early 2000s. And Krispy Kreme came to town.
Oh,
like
Krispy
everybody,
Kreme?
it was such a big deal to have Krispy Kreme donuts, right? I mean,
Here?
it's not now, but
Yeah,
they used
but
to
where
be at
was it?
Sonoma Market. They had we were their venue for a little bit.
Okay,
you know?
okay.
We just carried them.
Yeah.
I was like, big town Big stuff in Sonoma County.
No, but we do have the donut shop down in Highway 12, though. What was it called? The Danish?
Oh yeah,
that's true.
Donuts and Danish.
Yeah.
And did you know where the pub is? Actually, it's where Sonoma Taqueria is now. It used to be Thai food and donuts.
Wow. You know that donut place? It was really funny. One time, me and my son were there, and my son told me, like, dude, this is like the cleanest place I ever seen for a donut shop.
Oh.
Mm-hmm.
And then I heard from a friend that the guy who does the inspection says that that's the cleanest donut shop he ever inspected.
I wonder who's
That's
doing
a
the
good
inspection because they
recommendation.
said the same thing about Happy Dog back in the day.
Oh,
But it was true once it
Happy
got
Dog was
bought.
pretty clean, though.
Yeah.
No. The people used to clean that thing.
Exactly. Not when I
every
worked
day.
there. But
No.
Well, so now I'm making it a hobby to find all the good bakeries in town. And
Yeah.
so
Scandia
Whatever
Bakery
Scandia
is
is
my
amazing.
all-time favorite. Best
So
whipped cream
good.
I've ever had.
I also love Sweet Pea over there on West Napa is
They have
delicious.
great savory like sandwiches.
Their
and
pastries
stuff.
are wonderful.
Which one is that one?
It's one across from the library.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
That was pretty nice.
Yeah. So I am open
And there's
to
a new
any
one
and all.
coming down the
Tell me.
street. Monday Bakery, I think it's going to be called. I think they're out of Petaluma, but right down the street from us on West Napa Street, across from Cafe La Haye,
Oh.
in the space that Bearwood
You know
Trading
which-
Company used to be. There's, I know.
That's
So not
very
even
exciting to
closer,
me. Did
so
you
it's
see
even-
my face change all of a sudden? Like
You know
I
which
lit
one I
up.
heard was pretty good, too, and has really good sweet stuff? Is the one down to McDonald's. You go down to McDonald's, and then they're building the...
I just ate Baker and Cook.
Yeah, Baker and Cook. I heard
Yeah.
it was really good right there.
I just ate one of her quiches this morning. I was going to bring you some. They make really good. What do I call? What do you call those things?
Beignets?
Beignets.
Yeah.
Just air and cream, right?
My
but they
mom
were out.
bought me a cake, a birthday cake there from there.
Yeah.
Tres leches.
Oh.
Delicious. Took me back when my grandmother used to make it.
Oh, that
Maya
makes me
used to
so
make-
happy to hear.
So-
Tres leches is my favorite.
Oh, try it. It's delicious.
All right.
Maya restaurant used to make a really good
Yeah.
tres leches. Do you make it, Gerardo?
My wife makes it.
Oh, she does.
Yeah, I don't eat a lot of cake, but tres leches is my favorite cake. And there's only two people now that I like to eat it from. It's my wife, and now it's the bakers and cook. To be honest,
What's your cake jam?
Tres leche
Oh.
or a chocolate cake. Just a good
the-
old
the-
school chocolate cake with buttercream
the
icing.
tres leches from Baker's Cook is like homemade
All
tres
right.
leches. It's delicious, guys.
I'm into
Try it out.
Like you, I can't eat as much cake as I want to.
Yeah.
But I'm still a fan. So.
Yeah.
Mine is the log, and you take
the
the
Yule
little
log.
Andy's famous, which I could not find anywhere earlier in the year at Christmas. I had to go online, order them from Amazon, and it took like a month. So it was for my daughter's birthday. I think they're famous Andy's, just chocolate wafers and homemade whipped cream, and then you just freeze or put it in the fridge, and it's just a whipped cream.
The other
Clearly
thing that I
love
really like is my favorite is pan de lote. Is cornbread, but not the cornbread that you guys have here. Here is like dry, like bunch of cornmeal
You
in
got to
there.
go to the South to get
But
good
there's
cornbread.
my wife has a friend that works with her, and she makes the best pan de lote. And every time she makes it, she sends me a big loaf, and I'm like, leave it there. Don't
Robert,
touch it.
when's
That's
your
a good
birthday?
friend in November. Yeah. We got time.
Maybe a tres
We got
leches.
time. So clearly we can't eat cake 24/7,
Yeah.
right?
No, ma'am.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
so what have you found up here that you really enjoy?
We go to. I know you're a Mexican food connoisseur,
please don't
and
say
I'm
what I'm-
I'm not going to say La Casa. I'm going to say
They have good salads.
they do have good salads. We go to Hacienda on a regular basis because they've got a good strong margarita.
Okay, yeah.
I love the
Okay,
margaritas,
okay.
right?
All right, now you're talking my
Right.
language.
I love Spread Kitchen
Okay.
across
Yes.
the street from them because I'm a big fan of Mediterranean
Then we just got
food.
their
Yeah, we just used
tahini, or was it?
Christina just was in there yesterday, and we
I
actually
love her.
put it on
She's
pizza,
lovely.
the green tahini,
Yeah.
and we put it on pizza with a little parm and some
And I
herbs.
just
It's
found
good.
out that they're partnering with Bartholomew Estate
Yes.
Winery, so you can go there on certain days, do a
they're gonna be there.
tasting, and they make a
Wonderful.
lunch for you from Spread
Oh,
Kitchen,
nice.
which I'm like,
we
I'm
had
all
her
over
tahini
that.
brownies.
No, sounds
Oh,
good.
they always sell out. So I make sure to get one. Then I didn't even tell my daughter the other day I ate it without her in the car, threw the wrapper out. Sorry, Isla.
All right, so you like spread, you like the Hacienda. What about El Molino? You try El Molino?
I do. Sometimes Hacienda win out, though, because we go on a Friday night and I need to have a margarita with my Mexican food.
Yeah, instead of
And they-
stand in line, you're all.
Yeah.
But, no,
Yeah.
they have
Shoulder to
delicious
shoulder.
food. Very nice.
Nice. All right. That's
Agreed.
good. That's good.
Yeah.
And
And you know what? I am going to throw there my amigos from Costa Tacos.
I knew it was coming.
I'll be seeing you guys later at the Sonoma Spring Brewery.
Gerardo is slowly winning over every single person on this podcast if they're here in Sonoma. I think it was Gary last time. You saw the Costa's Tacos afterwards.
He was there. Yeah. You know, I've been eating tacos all my life, to be honest.
Sure.
All my life. And the ones that come close to Mexican tacos is Costa Tacos. It's because they put their tortillas on the grease. So the tortilla is nice and moist. It's not dry. Sometimes you need water to get those tacos out. Not this one. This one you eat them like a penguin, like a fish, you know. They're smooth, man.
Fish tacos.
Well,
I've
heard you sing their praises on previous episodes, so I'm thinking this weekend that might be might be happening for me. So thank you.
No problem.
Yeah.
Wow.
You'll enjoy it. Believe me.
This is exciting. Anything else you want to add, Robert?
I'm appreciative of the time to talk about myself and about my
do you
practice.
Get out socially, or are you just crafting away at home?
We're still building community up here. So we're still, we're making friends and exploring on the weekends when we're not working. And I mean, Sonoma's so wonderfully placed that, in 45 minutes from here, there's a dozen little towns to visit, which is really nice. But yeah, and I would just encourage, if you're interested in taking a class with me, by all means, get onto the Sonoma Community website. I've got them already scheduled for July and August. And, as soon as they put out the call for the fall, I'm sure I'll have submissions for that as well. But they do beautiful programming here, and it's a really fun environment in which to take a class.
Robert, I want to get some of my Latino people to come and take your class. In brewery, though. It'll be nice, I want to see all those old ladies going there, Remind me of my grandma. That'd be nice.
And this is the thing too, is I'm taking this old craft, but I'm trying to put a modern spin on it. So it's always fun to see who shows up to the classes, because it always seems to be a generational mix, which I really appreciate.
That's great.
Yeah.
You actually are out there listening to the podcast, and you're one of his many friends and fans and students from different... Look at the other places too. You're everywhere. So you're teaching these wonderful crafts, and I can't wait to go down the YouTube rabbit hole and find out some beginning crafts.
I appreciate that.
To share with the kids. And maybe you'll make an appearance down at Farmers Market when we're down there. Checking in on our work.
There you go.
Making sure we're doing the kids right.
And remember, people, you're getting a class from a Hollywood star. NBC. Come on.
Oh, dude, you're setting the bar too high. But you can find my full calendar of upcoming classes on my website, which is robert-mahar.com. And Mahar is Mahar.
I love it. Robert, thank you so much for coming down here today.
Guys. This was really fun. I appreciate the time.
Good. Okay. Well, I think we'll just move forward. We're brand new in summertime and waiting for it to get hot. And this podcast will probably be around the beginning of July, but we'll be in the parade with our puppets, and keep on going and sign up for classes. There's really great ones in all departments happening right now. We'll talk to you soon.
All right.